I had a hobby too. Mine happened to be guns and ballistics, and I studied guns and ballistics as much as I could, and I wrote an article about high velocity.
So out of all my years working at Weatherby, the last 5 have been some of the most exciting. Working with Adam, with him running the company.
And to think that I get the opportunity of carrying on my grandfather's legacy 75 years later here in Sheridan, Wyoming, I mean, it really is a dream come true.
Oh, I'm home. Thank God I'm home.
On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast.
Welcome back to On Our Mark, the Weatherby Podcast. We've got a fun one to talk about today. Mark 5 action. History of, why it's still around today, why it's still the world's strongest action. We're going to just do a deep dive and talk about the Mark 5. Joining us today, new to the podcast, John Graves.
Hello.
John, what do you do here?
Well, I'm the production manager. I've been at Weatherby for about 4 years, and I oversee the machining department, the firearm assembly department, and the Cerakote department. 3 awesome, hardworking departments out there with some fantastic people.
All of which are instrumental to the Mark 5. That's like the heart and soul of the Mark 5 is under John's responsibility. So that's why you're here.
Yep.
Thank you. Jared, a.k.a. Historian. I don't know. I was going to go something clever there. It didn't work.
Product development and
You're like becoming a staple. Like I wasn't going to intro you, but I was trying to come up with something clever on.
He's like the gun encyclopedia.
He is.
Not just Weatherby stuff. He knows everything.
I refer to you to many people as gun Wikipedia.
Yeah, we were actually in a meeting the other day, and for some reason Jared wasn't in that, and someone named an obscure model, and they're like, Jared would know like every single part that was in that gun.
Yeah, he would.
So that's just a little testament to Jared's gun knowledge.
it is a weird, like, I don't know. My mom and dad were like, there's no way that any of this knowledge is going to equate to a job. Look at me now. So
He's like gun Rain Man.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, he's not special needs. I see what you're going for there, though.
Yeah, super smart.
So one of the things, like what the reason all 4 of us are here, and probably the reason that most of the people that listen to this podcast listen to the podcast is because of the Mark V action.
Yeah.
Designed in 55, launched in 58. It's been around a little bit. Mm-hmm. Been a few tweaks and changes over the years, but it's still what we ship today is essentially the same thing that was back then.
Which with how much like advancements and different things, it's pretty crazy and kind of a testament to like how awesome that first action really was. You know, because things change all the time, and it's like, man, this hasn't changed since 1958.
you look at cars from 1958 today,
No kidding.
And it's like drastically different. And you look at the bolt guns, and it's like you could have picked up the parts from then, painted it on, dressed them up like we do now, and you wouldn't see a difference.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about the difference in automobiles. I actually saw my first Cybertruck in Sheridan recently, and you think of Cybertruck to like a 55 era like Ford truck, they're a little different.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. But yeah. So I might as well kick it off. But I think what Roy was going after, so he was playing with a lot of FN Mausers, what is that? Schultz and Larson actions, things like that, and then wanted to design something just his own to basically do a no holds barred. Let's make the best action he possibly can. So that's kind of the genesis of that. But yeah, so we actually have a inactivated and cutaway, which is kind of fun to play with and show how people, how things work.
Well, so yeah, I mean, probably if people are listening to this, they understand what's different. But really, the thing that I think was most revolutionary today and at the time was the locking lugs, like how that works. Like typically, even today, the most popular is like a 2-lug design. That's just 2 big beefy lugs. And Roy was trying to Wildcat, make really high pressure, well, really high velocity. Thus, he probably had some overpressure situation. Just guessing. I don't know that for fact, but I think we can infer that happened. He probably had some tight lockups on more traditional actions. He's like, man, I got to get a stronger action going.
You know, and something else too that would happen with like FN Mausers or like, you know, like I haven't personally experienced it, but with a Winchester I did, but like pierced primers. So whenever you're really pushing velocities, if you have something like that, you're going to have a lot of gas blow back in your face. So that was one of the biggest design features of the Mark V too, was to negate that.
Yeah, the safety aspect for hand loading, you know, that's huge. So out of the gate, I did a little research here. So, Jared, you probably know this, and I got a little more than what was on your cheat sheet there, Tyler, but because I cheated. I double cheated.
I was going to say, I did some research before, too, just to make sure I was prepared, and then I did the quick and dirty, like 5 to 10 little points that we needed.
So, out of the gate, it was investment cast in San Francisco by Precision Founders. And then it was assembled at the company HQ in Southgate.
I think they went away from that too. Because,
they did. Soon.
Did it talk about, I don't know if your history talks about that, but basically like the high polish look that they were going for, you would have voids in casting. So that was a really difficult thing to avoid. Yeah,
so that was 58. In 59, they established a second production line in Eckernford, Germany with J.P. Sauer & Son.
Yeah.
And I did not know, but that makes more sense that it's for that high gloss bluing.
Did you see anything in there of why they called it the Mark V?
No.
I got go ahead, Jared. I want to see if it's true to what I was reading.
Well, I think there was like several variations, but then also too that, and I think it was the fifth variation, and then I forget who it was, but maybe it was Roy. But like the Mercury, it was something to do with like a Mercury outboard. Was like, you know, like Roman numeral 5, and he's like, I like that. Yeah. And then I think that was the,
Yeah, that's kind of the combination that I got, was that it was like truly like that fifth variation, and then there's some of those, you know, of the times things, and it's like, yeah, let's call it the Mark V.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You know, I think it's interesting. It's designed in 55, production in 58, 59, basically went to Germany until 71. Went to Japan until 94.
Yep.
Then came back over stateside. So it's moved around a little bit, but it's kind of still, there's some minor, I think, nuances between the different, you know, where they were produced, but it's essentially the same action. John, how does it compare to make a Mark V action versus a 307 action, which is, you know, kind of a 700 footprint action?
Right. There's several differences, and you know what I find that's so cool is our employees here that have so much passion for assembling this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just great. You know, obviously there's a lot of different features that the Mark V has. The 54-degree bolt throw. You know, the Mark V action is designed, you were talking about it earlier, for those larger calibers, you know, the higher velocities, which is super cool. Over in our machining department, we have some awesome machinists, very high-tech, high-end Akumas here.
Mm-hmm.
We're able to contour our barrels to whatever we need for that model, and our machinists take a lot of pride in that. It's really awesome to see. They're checking it constantly, making sure that barrel is just perfect. You know, we make our titanium receivers in-house too.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a really
the Mark
neat
V
feature.
titanium,
Mark V titanium receiver. That's a really cool aspect that we're able to do here. It's a super strong receiver, super lightweight. We make some great models with it. The product development team, the sales team, marketing team, they have some awesome designs and ideas out there. So we're really fortunate with them. And then, you know, our machinists, they're just fantastic in everything they do. And there's so much pride over in that department of what they're making every single day, making sure that it's just the best it can be. And you know, they're all signing their name to what they're making. So it's so cool that we do that here in-house all the way through.
It is really cool. It's challenging because since the Mark V was really designed before even CAD and before modern CNC machines, I would love to see like the original setup for like how did they make the first, like obviously cast, that's one way you could do it. The first ones were investment cast, but the first ones that were run in Germany, I would love to see like the machining setups, how that was done. Was not computer numerical controlled machining going on.
I'm not 100% sure how they would do it, but I know that like a lot of manufacturing at the time would typically have like they would basically have like one mill machine set up to do one operation, and then they would have like a whole row basically, and it would be passed down.
Just go down the
and
line.
it would go down the line, and they would be set up specifically with jigs, you know. So, but they would be a forged receiver, roughly the same, you know,
A near net
proper
shape.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Wow.
And then from there it would be machining steps all the way. Do you know how many machining steps are making titanium? I know it's a lot, but I don't remember.
It is a lot.
There are 90 different operations to take our titanium receiver from a block of titanium to a finished receiver.
Now we know.
On
90 ops.
90 ops on 2 different machines plus the laser engraving.
That's significant.
Yeah, that's pretty. That's substantial.
Yeah.
I think. Oh man, rabbit trail. But like whenever
It's okay.
you know, Kalashnikov making the AK originally was supposed to be a
Yeah.
you know, molded or man, why am I
Cast.
no the folding? Why am I can't think of that. Where they
Mandrel
fold.
bent.
No, well,
Like Damascus? What are you
no,
talking about?
the stamp steel.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be stamped steel.
Okay, stamped.
And then they were having a lot
Folding?
of failures. They fold it like it's
Fair enough.
But then they had to go to machine ops for years, and it was one of the same things where it was like an incredible amount of like 100 and some ops to just make a receiver. But
Wow.
yeah, I think it's interesting. Back then they had a lot more labor, was easier to come by, I feel like.
True. Yeah, it's different. I mean, it's just different now. People have different expectations of what work looks like from then to now, too. And like we said, I mean, we're essentially doing it the same way with some computer assisting now with modern machining techniques and design, but it's still the same design, and it just was done before some of these modern CNC machines were made, and it was really challenging. Before I was at Weatherby, I used to work at Walther, and we had a project to bring the PPK machining to the States. And it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare. It was so hard. The frame of that pistol is so tricky. It's like the modern CNC, you almost couldn't do it. It was really hard to figure out. There's a portion that basically right behind the grips where the metal is like super thin to make room for the magazine and the grips and a trigger feature to come through. Golly, it was hard. And we're like, how did they do this back then? We have like everything at our disposal, and this is crazy hard. It's kind of the same thing. I remember when we were getting set up to do the Mark V in-house on the titanium. One, just like cutting titanium's not easy.
Oh, it's different. It's different material. You know, it acts differently than steel, and but you know, thanks to our engineers and our machinists, boy, that thing's pretty darn cool, pretty darn sweet. I like it.
Is.
That's
I love-
awesome.
Like when they first come out of there, how sharp it is, and before it's tumbled, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, a lot of work goes into it. Once it comes off the machine, you know, it there's no doubt about it. It does look a little rough, and you know, the guys put a lot of hand labor into finishing that. You know, getting all the burrs off, smoothing all the edges out, and then getting that matte look on there. It's a lot of time and labor, and a lot of labor of love to make it look so perfect. It's sweet.
It is cool. There's just a lot of hand touches. It's super inefficient. You remember when Chili's logo was slogan was monuments of inefficiency? I feel like we could adopt that.
That's a good logo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was
Yeah.
the 90s.
Yeah, the Mark V certainly was not designed to be an efficient and easily manufacturable action. It was designed to be excellent
And
in
to be
every
the
way,
best.
and
Yeah.
to be the best. So, yeah, like how it differs a lot. So if you're listening, I guess you can't see our visual, but like on tubular actions like a 700 or our 307, you would have a basically the recoil lug is sandwiched between the barrel and the receiver. On a Mark V, it protrudes as one piece of the receiver down below into the stock. So incredibly strong, incredibly thick, and it does offer some benefits like instead of having multiple stacking tolerances of like you have the barrel, you have the receiver, now you have this extra piece in there. You just have those. You have one connection now. So there's definitely a lot of benefit, but it does make it more difficult to manufacture.
Yeah, like you said, the tubular receivers, most every other receiver, essentially, not all, but most, they're just using a tube of steel that then they can, it's much more designed for manufacturing. That feature right there is a nightmare for manufacturing.
I forget the finished, I forget the weights on it. But when you look at the weight difference of like
Start to finish,
yeah. And on the 307, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's not that much different. You're just taking off a little bit of material. On a Mark V, it's like way more than half. Like you're lopping off tons of material, to get that finished shape. But that kind of goes along with the bolt too. On basically every other bolt action rifle, they have a two-piece design where you have the bolt body and then you have the handle affixed. And the Mark V is one piece forged into that shape and then machined from there. So it's a gnarly piece of steel. Whenever you if you just hold the bolt blanks.
I've seen some of those blanks. They are gnarly, and also very inefficient way to make a bolt. Like you said, a multi-piece bolt. It makes way more sense from a manufacturing standpoint. But if you just want the strongest bolt you can get,
one piece is the way to go.
One piece.
Yeah, because even then you think about like the time to do that is like you could have multiple machines making stuff, right?
Yeah.
Now you have one machine making one bolt.
Yeah.
Instead of like two machines making one.
Yeah,
bolt.
you
Like,
can't make the handle and the bolt body concurrently. It's all attached.
Yeah, but it goes down to those details things though, right? When you have that one bolt and you're going to cycle that, it's not going to have any wiggle because it's one piece, right?
And even that, just the strength. So if you have like a stuck case, whatever else, you can really hammer on that thing, and you're not gonna. The last thing that's going to break is the bolt handle. Even compared to the 307 attaches an awesome way, which is cool, which makes it disassemble easy. But like a Rem 700, that's like brazed on. So and I'm not saying it's not strong, but it's not perfect. It's not like it is a point that could fail. But even like say like a Winchester 70 that does have features like say a integral recoil lug, the bolt handle is pressed on, so yeah, it's kind of a Mark V checks all the boxes, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that sometimes gets lost in just if you're just looking at price. Why is that gun so much more than a 307 or something else that's comparable? They kind of shoot the same bullets out the end of the tube at the end of the day, but it's all the little attention to detail, every little fit and finish part, all the work, John, that your team puts in, all the hand touches. How many hands do you think touch? Let's just this would be an extreme example, but Mark V Deluxe, because we've been talking about those a lot lately. How many separate hands do you think are touching a Mark V Deluxe before it goes out?
A lot. All right, so let's see here. So, we talked about the machining process earlier, and you got 5 people in the machining department that just machine the barrel and the bolts. Mm-hmm. Comes over to the firearm assembly department, and right now we're pushing pretty hard on deluxes, and we have a team of about 7 people just dedicated to deluxes, and that's the polishing, the sanding, the polishing, and boy, they spend all day long making sure it's perfect. That mirror finish that we all
Yeah.
love. There's
It's
7
the
people.
it's the 5 P's of mirror finish:
Yeah.
polishing, 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 and polishing. Yeah,
That's right. That's right. Yep.
I'd never heard that one before.
I just made it up just then.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, as we go through that process for those deluxes, like I said, that team that's back there just polishing and sanding, they're doing that great job. And, one order of 20, you were talking about how the Mark V is a little inefficient on the production side of things, if you think about it. But that labor of love, that team, it takes them about a week to make 20 deluxes, and they're pushing pretty hard. And that's a testament to how much they care about what they're doing. They sand every machine line out of every single piece that's there, and then they get to assemble it.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, once they start actually assembling it, torquing that barrel onto the receiver, cutting the headspace for the bolt, going through that process, boy, they take their time. They don't want to scratch it or ding it or anything. And there's so much passion those guys and gals put into that rifle. It's awesome to see each and every day. They show up to work early, stay late, getting it all done. It's awesome.
I was going to say, Luke, you're like thinking, focusing on price. That kind of sparked it's like back to the car analogy, right? It's like you could have a Toyota Corolla or you could have a Tundra TRD, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, again, like very similar concepts. They do similar things, but one is built as a tool to do something different than this one.
Well, yeah, and even like a step further than that, you could have I don't think did they ever bring the Supra back in the Toyota lineup? They were talking about bringing a Supra back, but a Supra to like a Veyron, like very different spec wise. There might be the Veyron's going to have more, but massively different price points. $100,000 Supra and a couple $1 million Bugatti.
Yeah.
But the Bugatti is basically hand built. Like there's very few things that are automated in that whole process, and it's just the amount of touch points that go into a Mark V. They're just off the chart.
Yeah.
20 deluxes takes how many guys? How long? Say that again.
Call it 20 deluxes. We'll just round numbers. Let's say it takes 8 people a week.
Yeah, that's not very efficient.
It's not, but look at the product that they put out.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
it is awesome.
The labor that goes into the sanding and polishing, like we talked about, that's just part of it. Every Mark V it's a semi-custom rifle, whether it's a high polished, a deluxe rifle, or a Cerakote one. All the time and effort they put into assembling all the small components and the bolts and the bolt sleeves. They're sitting down there with small files, making sure it feels perfect. All the touch point or all the contact points in the rifle, just smooth and silk. Each and every day they're working on that, setting that trigger, setting that safety. It's cool to see them. They sit there, the guys down there, they'll finesse over the safety for far too long, making it perfect every single time. And we're on the production floor. We're the production department, and so we're producing a production rifle that's pretty much a custom production rifle. It's pretty cool to see.
There's a big difference there between like what people assume. If you like build essentially like a Lego kit, which is like a Remington 700, compared to Mark V, there's a lot more. Like just the safety mechanism is a good illustrator of all that goes into that, which is pretty nuts. So like on a traditional, say like a Mark V, and you like are engaging the safety, what you're actually doing is you're actually pulling the cocking piece and the entire firing pin off of the trigger mechanism. And so that's an entire mechanism inside the bolt sleeve that, that's nice and sleek looking on the outside, but it's like a Swiss watch on the inside, which is pretty cool. I mean, a robust Swiss
there's a lot
watch.
There's a lot of stuff happening there.
Yeah. But, compared that to like a, our 307 where it's like 2 pins, push it in, safety's integral into the trigger, big difference there.
Huge.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Huge. One thing we've yet to mention is the variations in the Mark V action.
Yeah.
There's been a couple, maybe more than a couple. 9-lug, 6-lug, varmintmaster, often forgotten about, never overlooked. Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
Highly prized.
Yeah, I mean the 9 lug, obviously big beefy bolt body, big beefy receiver, and then the 6 lug is by like Remington standards, it's still a long action, but it's just real skinny. Like I forget 112. What is it? You'll know. What's the width?
Yeah, I forget the barrel
106
width
or
is
something.
106. So I
Yeah.
think the receiver's 112.
Yeah.
I think, but
Right
it's-
in there, just over an inch, basically. 1.1 inches wide versus a 9 lug, which I just blanked on that off the top of my head. But it's over. It's like an inch and a quarter, just right around.
Yeah, I don't have my pocket calipers on, but
Yeah, but you save so much weight with that 6 lug, and then the varmintmaster was basically a 6 lug short action. It's kind of cool.
super short action.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
super
quite-
short. Yeah, good point.
Yeah, wouldn't quite fit in the 224, which was designed around. Would you're basically maxed out at, oh goodness, like 20. I don't. Yeah, 22.250 was about as long as you. I mean, you can go maybe a little bit longer, but that's about it. Wouldn't fit a 308 or any of those ones. But still, yeah, neat rifle though. There's those are pretty highly prized when you can run across one.
The limitations to the 6 lug were that really skinny action. You can't fit a magnum bolt face. So one of the questions we get constantly is like, why don't you do a 6.5 PRC and the 6 lug action? Well, most of the PRC all the PRC families, fat short cartridges, and they just won't. We don't have the width in the 6 lug action, so it'd have to go in the 9, and you get problems when you have a short cartridge and a really long action. So
Essentially a WISM.
yeah,
In shape and roughly.
yeah, we get that question a lot, so I wanted to head that one off. Tyler, what else you got on your cheat sheet here?
Yeah, I just had the 6 lug going into full production, like we were talking about that. That was 1996, so that was is that correct, Jared?
That sounds about right, but I
So
honestly don't quite remember.
So just
I know-
the only thing I had is talking about some of that timeline on manufacturing here. Just we went California, then now here. So no, I don't have anything super different on there.
What's the biggest cartridge we've ever had in the? It's 460. Is there-
460 minus,
I wonder if anybody's
certain
ever
there's-
done like a 50 cal.
You
It
you
wouldn't quite fit, would it?
Yeah, well, you can
Jared would
do
know.
so this is actually one of the sticking points, which I kind of wish we owned, but we don't. But the 50A square, they took a 460 and necked it up to 50,
Yeah,
and we totally could have done that.
we could have done
But
that.
yeah, but that's a 460 Weatherby necked up to 50 cal. But I mean, honestly, ballistically, the 460 is far superior.
Yeah, you're gonna get way
but,
more velocity out of that.
Yeah, a lot more velocity. But yeah, you can get up to a 460, which is a based on the 378 base cartridge. So basically, width-wise, you're looking at if people see a 338 Lapua, it's basically like a big 338 Lapua is kind of your to get a reference point. But yeah. Forget foot-pounds of energy, but it's a lot.
It's significant. Yeah.
I wonder if that's something too that probably people don't know, but like on our Woodstock Deluxes and Dangerous Games and stuff like that.
Secondary recoil.
Yeah. So there's actually if you just look at the barreled action, we have that nice, awesome large recoil lug, which can handle the recoil. But in stocks, wood stocks, and even on our synthetics, we actually have a secondary recoil lug mounted onto the barrel itself in line with the first one. And that's basically to reduce, stress on that one point. So, yeah, it's pretty gnarly. I wonder if we have a picture of that or if we've advertised that, but that's a big price point.
I don't think we
differences.
talked about it much in the last 6 years, at least. I don't know when those cartridges were launched, if it was talked more about then. But yeah, adding. I mean, we were talking about that in a meeting a couple weeks ago. Just the effort that goes into adding that second recoil lug is substantial and inefficient.
we custom weld that on, and yeah, it does take a little bit of time to do that on those high polished rifles. We do that on all the 375 family.
Yep. 378 family.
Or sorry, 378. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
John, if you price is no object, you could pick any Mark V model from 1955 to today. 1958, technically. What would you pick?
Backcountry Carbon TI.
That was fast.
That's an awesome rifle.
It is pretty awesome.
It's pretty cool. Just it's so lightweight, but no matter what caliber you pick in that model, there's not that much recoil, which is awesome.
It is pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool, and I think that goes to the design of the overall action plus that blacktooth stock that we put on there. It's pretty lightweight, but it's pretty cool.
It is cool.
Plus the color, I like darker colored guns. And
Partial,
so
yeah.
That's why I picked that one.
Jared, what do you think?
If price is no object, and
you
then
just,
I
you just
would
get
have
to,
to
you
go,
just getting a free one. You can just pick it.
okay, and then I'd have absolutely do like an Ultramark, Royal Ultramark. Just go super old school,
Yeah.
super high grade. In recent years, which was discontinued, but even like the Euromark, which was
I like that one a
was
lot.
pretty cool.
It's like a deluxe, but with not the high gloss finish,
Yeah.
more matte and oil rub on the wood.
Yeah, I think like that style of gun plus open sights is like with a barrel band is about as cool as you can go. So I would have to go if it's free, then that is the gun. If I have to pay for it, then I'd probably skimp back a little bit. But yeah, no, that's pretty sweet.
What do you think?
I'm going to go similar to John, but I'm going to stick with the RPM family or 280 Ackley. I just love our 6-slug action. It's just something about that action just screams backcountry hunter for me. So I'm thinking something in the 6-slug though.
That's not the question. You have to pick a model.
A model? Okay, I'll go backcountry 2.0 carbon, and I'll go 6.5 RPM.
Okay, nice. Well, moving on. I don't know. I think I'd go with Jared. The Royal Ultramark was pretty cool. Seen some absolutely amazing pieces of wood on those.
There's some really cool, and I mean and they didn't necessarily have like a name designator, but there's some old customs that were done that were just ridiculous, and you'll see them come up every once in a while, someone is selling off a collection, and there's just something that Roy had a absolute hand in. Those ones are pretty awesome.
I wish that we had more records of some of that stuff, because I know today, trying to think if there's anybody I could name. Let's just say we get a VIP, that's looking for a gun. It happens. Not a ton, but just because of the state of things. But we'll usually bend over backwards to put something together for them. The way Roy built this company was doing that for Hollywood.
And for everyone.
For everyone. Yeah. I can't imagine. I bet there's some guns out there that almost nobody has ever seen that are just absolutely gorgeous. That'd be really fun to see.
That would be really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool.
Could you imagine back then? Hey, we got to build a John Wayne wants another one. But he wants it better than the last one. How fun would that have been to work on that?
Yeah. It might have been at a show, but I had someone showing me a letter, and it was from Roy, and it was he was building a deluxe, right? And the guy had got it down to 3 pieces of wood because he was selecting his wood. Mm-hmm. But then Roy had this whole write-up on which piece he should pick and why. And I just I think it was at a show. Someone was showing me this letter, and it's like, oh wow, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, that I got down to 3, and then he went with Roy's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was cool.
A year or two ago, Craig Johnson is the author of the Longmire book series, and then Netflix. Well, it was started outside of Netflix, but then Netflix ultimately hosted the rest of the series for Longmire. But I'd watched that whole series
I've
years
watched
ago,
it too. Yeah,
and
it's
it's
good.
great. It's just like a cool like neo-western that's staged in this area, basically, because Craig grew up around here and loves it, and lives kind of between here and Buffalo. And so Buffalo, 30 minutes south of here, they host the Longmire Days every August, and we built a gun to be auctioned off there a couple of years ago. And Craig, the author, actually like wrote in his latest book at the time, Adam and Brenda, into the book. I don't know. Did you know this?
I heard about it, but
Yeah. So I don't want to give away the whole plot, but it's a Longmire. Sheriff Longmire's like third generation. So basically, Longmire's grandpa was given a gun by Roy, and something happened. It went lost. A gun was found. They came to Weatherby to figure out the history on it. Brenda basically sets them straight on when it was made, what the history of it, and that's a big part of the plot line. But it was really interesting. So we made this custom gun. It ended up like really pretty, and it's cool. Like it's just fun that
It was pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Not 2 days ago, one of my best friends from college, Wyatt, if you're listening, he sends me a screenshot of the audiobook. He goes, "There's an awful lot of Weatherby in this this book I'm reading," and it was
it was that
It
one?
was the Longmire one. Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, it was pretty cool.
It's fun, and it, like I said, it doesn't like from a pop culture standpoint, it doesn't happen like it used to. But I can't imagine back in the day when we weren't so taboo.
yeah.
It'd be really fun. Tyler, you got anything else you want to add on this thing?
No, I think just kind of getting the point across that, man, when you're opening up and you're buying your Mark V, we do like strive to give you like that custom rifle feel in a production cost, production availability too. So I think that's like one thing that sometimes we forget to talk about a lot is like, man, a lot of people are putting $5,000-$6,000 into a custom when it's like, well, that's what we're trying to do, in that $2,500 to $3,500 range.
There's a really interesting, if you look at rifles that were built back when this exact rifle was started making, like say if you look at like, Mauser 98s or whatever else, and you would, I know you think about like a lot of people think about surplus, but Mauser 98s made now start at like $15,000. Like it's pretty wild where like the amount of, because it's made like those are made the old way and this is made the exact same way, but it's honestly about as affordable as you can get for having such an awesome action. But I kind of always look at it like you're not buying yourself a gun, but you're like buying your, generations down the line. Like, and that's kind of what I look at with a Mark V is I think about like my kids hunting and my grandkids hunting and things like that of like being able to pass this down and know that it's going to be like dead nuts reliable. And it is built with no holds barred, the amount of engineering and attention to detail.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of what I look at when I think about, a Mark V compared to just, passing down a, couple $100 gun is like that's a tool, but this is art.
It's a pretty solid concluder, Jared, but I also wanted to give John a chance to speak his Mark V piece.
Our team, we have a daily stand-up meeting every morning when we start the day, and as we talk about what our plans are for the day and what we're going to accomplish and achieve, and I always remind the guys like, hey, that rifle you're signing your name to, and it resonates with them because when they're building that rifle, they actually think of that rifle as they're building it for themselves. It's like, yeah, a customer's going to buy it, but they're like, no, that could be my rifle. I want that to be my rifle. And that's the kind of passion they're putting into it. They really are. Like, honestly, you know, they're out there, they'll sit there and file and make it perfect and this and that. And at the end of the day, they put so much of their efforts into it that we know the customer is going to love that Mark V rifle. It's just so cool. It's so awesome. And, you know, it's just great.
Tomorrow's rifle today.
There you go.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for listening. There's tons more information on weatherby.com. We got a couple pages dedicated just to the Mark V. If you've got questions about your Mark V, call customer service. We do a lot of that stuff where, when was it made? It's fun. It's fun for those guys to look up, and we do our best to help. We've moved a few times. We don't have every answer in 79 years of company history, but we'll do our best to get you the answers you're looking for. So
Yeah, this is such a broad topic, Mark V. So also, if there was any topics or anything where we could do like a part 2, send it to our honormark@weatherby.com comments, questions.
Yeah,
So,
we'll do our best to address them.
yeah.
Thanks.